Good day, doctors. Welcome, everyone. It is Friday, May 21st, 2021. 118 days or so of His Fraudulency's reign of terror. How is everyone? We are joined by Dr. Gary Collins from the city of, that was great when William Donald Schaefer was mayor, Charm City, home of the Orioles. Orioles magic happening tonight?
Who knows? We'll see. I mean, the Orioles have they've been all right? I mean,
they're a lot better than we thought they'd be.
Exactly.
They're playing the Nationals, so it could go either way.
Yeah, it's true. It's definitely.
Is it in Baltimore or is it in D.C.?
I honestly haven't been following, so your guess is as good as mine, to be honest. But thanks for having me. Definitely a pleasure being back.
Yeah, and fresh off a valiant effort on a campaign for mayor in Westminster, Dr. Chris Tomlinson, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. And just to make it clear, I wasn't running for mayor in Westminster. I was.
Yeah, I know. I said
I was helping somebody run.
Yeah, you were working on the campaign. Yeah. Did I make it sound like you were running for mayor?
It could have been interpreted that way. It was good for Chris throwing that disclaimer or whatever.
Yeah.
Chris is from the reddest part of the state of Maryland. That's not on the Eastern Shore, Carroll County, the home of the district that Delegate Reed Novotny covers, and a bunch of other great Republicans. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then we have Media Dean, Chairman of Action Academia, Don Irvine, the one who strikes fear in the hearts of Ben Bradley when he sees him at the Palm. Welcome, Don.
Yeah, it'd be harder to do since Ben's been dead for a number of years, but
His ghost is still around.
I do want to say though, I keep thinking about that every time you talk about Baltimore, and you talk about William Schaefer. I'm like, I've really heard you talk nicely about a Democrat.
No, I've said nice things about I said nice things about Zell Miller. I've said really nice things about 2008 Joe Lieberman. I said 2008 Joe.
I mean, he really was. Was he still a Democrat in 08?
No, 08 he was vying to be John McClain's running mate.
Yeah.
But he was compared to who replaced him, he was not so bad, I've also said nice things about, I think that's it. Yeah.
I like that.
In your defense, I mean, William Donald Schaefer was a Democrat, but correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, he didn't really give a crap about either party, right?
Yeah. I mean, William Donald Schaefer, Harry Hughes, they were both, as Bob Ehrlich once said, they wore an M on their chest, not a D or an R. William Donald Schaefer, Marvin Mandel, and Harry Hughes, they put Maryland first. Unlike Paris Glendenning, who put Paris first and his secretary first, and his wife second.
I think I even voted for Schaefer for governor at one point because the Republicans running in Maryland were so terrible.
Oh, was that the year? Was that 1990 when Bill and Lois ran?
I think so.
Had a husband and wife. Yes,
yeah.
A lot of Republicans.
That was bad.
But he got like 38% against William Donald.
Yeah, for a Republican at that time, that was not bad. But we now know the bar's far higher now, thanks to Ehrlich, and Hogan. So
yeah. Absolutely. And by the way, here's the other thing: is Bill Shepard's wife. If you brought in 5 volunteers, she drives 7 away.
Sounds like a few. Never mind. I'm going to keep that comment to myself.
But but it's been a busy week. We've got Democrats threatening to withhold the weapons sale to Israel. What has happened to the Democrat Party? Are they not just the party of anti-Semites now? I think they are.
Well, we definitely been seeing a lot of this, right? Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, no, I mean, as a Jewish individual myself, I mean, I find it very. I mean, today we had a few of our Orthodox brothers come over and give me a Chabad prayer over at my office. But at the end of the day, it's fascinating because I think Biden just held a presser with South Korean president, right? And there's something that he said that really stood out to me. Is he said, "I think the Democrats still stand behind Israel." And the way that he phrased that and the emphasis in the word think, I don't even think the Democrats really know. There's this divide, this progressive
Well,
divide, and the progressives, they've turned their back.
well, let's go back in time. Joe Biden, when he was a United States Senator, he threatened to withhold aid to Israel in 1982. 1982. I mean, Joe Biden is not, I know everyone said, oh, he's just silly. He's your crazy uncle in the attic that everybody knows is there, but nobody wants to talk about him. But he actually has said everything from not sending his kids, busing would turn his kids' school into a jungle to you can't go into a Dunkin' Donut or a gas station in Delaware without hearing an Indian accent, to wanting to withhold aid to Israel in 1982. In 1982, things were not that great in the Middle East. Things were crazy. You had the Intifada going on. You had the rock throwers. You had all that stuff going on. And it is despicable that a United States senator would threaten our best friend, the only democracy in the Middle East, in 1982. And I think Joe Biden actually did that because he might be a closeted anti-Semite. I don't know.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, I think we knew that coming in that Biden wasn't going to be Donald Trump on Israel and the Middle East. That was going to be clear from the beginning. But I'm very disappointed in how much backtracking has been done here by the administration on support for Israel. I mean, this is criminal for this, and to really listen to the AOCs and the Rashida Tlaibs. When you've got AOC, calling the Israeli government, she's saying, they're apartheid. I mean, are you nuts? And this whole thing that they, when Biden went to Detroit, and they, he apparently had this discussion, which the media reported on, apparently a heated discussion with Rashida Tlaib, but he then turns around during that speech and praises her to the high hilt. It's like he's kowtowing to these progressive, these absolute leftists who are anti-Israel and are promoting, I think. And so we see a lot of the narrative comes out. It's just like, you've got to stop Israel from bombing Gaza. It's like, well, wait, who started this? And who are the terrorists? It's not Israel. Israel is not the terrorist. This is so crazy that we're having to go down this path.
They need somebody like somebody that actually can play hardball. I think Bibi's being a little too nice. I think he just rolled those tanks in and level every Hamas installation. And there was an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where the Tal Shiar was infiltrated by Counselor Troy, and she made a very good point, and I think this is what they should do. She said, "Tell me who the spy is. You won't suffer alone, but your families and everyone that you know and love will be there with you suffering unless you tell me." And somebody, grabbed a disruptor and killed the Romulan captain. But the point is, I think that's what should be done. If you are harboring Hamas terrorists, or you know where they are, it is a civic duty to tell the Israelis, because Hamas is also the folks who live in Gaza. They're pretty much being screwed by Hamas too. Frankly, they shot at an aid convoy coming from Jordan today. Hamas, it's like this is and you notice what's not happening this time, and this is because of President Donald Trump. And you don't have the Saudis, you don't have the Jordanians, everyone condemning Israel this time around. You don't have that. That is President Trump's legacy.
Well,
the idea. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, the other thing that's astonishing to me about this, and not to share some of our conversation that we were all having in the green holding room here before we went live, but when has it? I mean, everything seems to be upside down. When has it been a major crime and a major travesty internationally to defend yourself as a sovereign nation? When has that became an issue? And at the end of the day, like there will never ever be peace in the Middle East until we as a world, governments around the world really sit back and support the sovereignty of Israel being their own. And it's interesting too. You got wars raging in the Middle East. You got stuff going on there. You got Rocket Man firing rockets. You got all this stuff going on. Apparently, there's a war in Colombia, a minor civil war that's going on there. I mean, you have all this death and destruction. And it's almost like when Donald Trump left office, the whole thing blew up. The whole thing internationally seemed to just completely blow up.
Oh, it did. I mean, it absolutely did. I mean, let me tell you. Let's see. Unemployment is on its way up. It's heading north. These giveaways. You notice unemployment numbers fell in red states where Republican governors cut off the extra $300 they were sending. People found a job real fast. And here's the thing. Unemployment is not a way of life. And honestly, Barack Obama got rid of welfare reform that was put through by Newt Gingrich and so on. And they watered down the crime bill. They've done, and welfare has now become a way of life for a lot of folks. Nobody is leaving welfare rolls,
Yeah, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day. I mean, none of us were around during the Great Depression, but we've all seen clips and read about it and stuff. And you had these people who couldn't find work, and the government came out and they created programs to get people back to work so they can make some money, provide for their families. Now we're in this complete alternate universe where it's the complete opposite of that, where it's not that people can't find jobs. There are so many jobs available right now, but nobody wants to work because instead of the government, in the Great Depression, they were helping provide jobs. Now they're providing a reason for you to stay home and not work a job. I mean, I think we've all either seen it with our own eyes or seen it online. I mean, countless restaurants are closing up at 4 o'clock during the day when they're supposed to be open, all afternoon and night, because they just simply don't have the staff. I mean, I'm trying to organize a couple of fundraisers up here in Carroll County, and I'm being told by restaurants we cannot support an event with that many people right now. We just don't have the staff. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're allowing people to just sit at home and collect these checks when there's jobs available. It's not that there's not jobs. There's more jobs than people want. It's terrible.
I agree. I mean, I was at the Green Turtle not too long ago, and there was maybe 3 people in there, but I was waiting for about 10 minutes to be seated because they're having a real hard time finding people to work. And I hate to say it, it's like people have just become very lazy. I mean, back in the old days, like in my granddad's days, being on welfare was something to be ashamed of. That's like a badge of honor. Look, I got now, especially because one, they got rid of the stamps, and now it's like you're just swiping the credit card. Oh, look, he's got an orange credit card, or whatever. And what really kills me is when I go to Costco and I see somebody whipping out an EBT card to pay for. How are you affording the membership at Costco's? If you're on welfare, and if look, I know people struggle, and I'm all for giving a helping hand. It's just not a way of life. Oh, by the way,
I mean, now, as a result of all of this too, I mean, it's not just that people are lazier than they were before necessarily, but they have gotten out of that. Heck, my next job is going to be something very different. So the hospitality industry is going to have a bit of a problem attracting these people, even when the unemployment gets cut off. We have 22 states now have said, we're leaving the federal program on this extra benefit. That's not necessarily the idea to solve the problem immediately. It may be that some people that who then wind up seeing that they've now got a shortfall will have to figure this out, and they will return to it. A lot of people have also moved on and decided there are just other things they want to do rather than work in a restaurant, rather than work in a hotel. I mean, that hotel industry is having a hard time too. They're trying to bounce back. Travel is trying to bounce back, but if you can't find enough housekeepers and other staff to run the hotel, then you can't sell as many rooms either. So they're also going to be capacity constrained. It is. We have this huge domino effect from all of this. But the Democrats, it's one thing to start this program, which we needed. We didn't know how long we were going to be in it. Everything had gone to hell in a handbasket in a hurry. But to continue this, as long as we have, is not helpful. And that goes along with the eviction moratorium. That needs to end. We have to see clearly where we really are. Landlords they're being scammed, and taking on the chin.
And this is basically clearly helping the big. Yeah, and Don, this is clear. The eviction moratorium is not helping people like me. It's basically hurting people like me, but it's helping folks like Southern Management, the large conglomerates that own the REITs that own a lot of property, where they can kind of ride this out. And I mean, Montgomery County, on top of the mandate of having to put in air conditioning, and we can't even raise the rent after we put the central air system in there. And what these guys, they don't realize what they're doing. The unintended consequences is like when the lease is up in the house that I just had to put central air in because of Tom Hucker, I'm going to raise the rent $1,000 to recoup the money that I had to spend layout for the central air. And if the guy can't afford it, that's fine. I'll find somebody else that can, because quite frankly, this is driving up the rental prices. And it's you've got liberals in Montgomery County that say, oh, you should be able to live in Montgomery County and work in Montgomery County. Well, not if you keep forcing these mandates down on landlords, where we're going to have to keep raising the rent. They can just commute in from PG County or DC or anywhere else for that matter.
If I can make a comment.
Oh, yeah, you make it livable. You also cut the.
Yeah.
17,875 is what I had to cut to the IRS on top of everything else they stole this week.
Yeah, taxation is theft, right? Hey, one thing that I did want to make a comment about, with the economy, and it is a very good point. I think a lot of people have certainly moved on, to pursue other things. But I mean, I work in finance, and some of the entry level positions that I'm hiring for right now are 65 to 70 plus thousand a year. I can't fill them. And the applicants who I'm getting honestly can't pass a basic aptitude test, even with a college degree. So it's just like, I mean, we are literally, my office, our brokerage right now, we went from, at the beginning of the pandemic to be staffed around, 20 people or so. We're down staffed with about 4. And we have a workload right now easily that would require 25 folks. And it's just like, we can barely function. And the problem is overall quality, client quality is going down. Everything's going down the tubes. And the root of it is that, the invisible hand is no longer a hand. It's literally like an invisible pedestal that's like cement, and it's holding everybody and everything up. It's crazy. It's absolutely nonsense, and it's absolute craziness.
I mean, I'm assuming Chris in Carroll County, you guys are business there are facing tougher times just because it's more of a rural county, and it's harder to find folks to work in the restaurants and various industries. I know there's a lot of restaurants that are only using drive-through only because they can't, serve people inside, And it's not because the government's telling them they can't; it's because they don't have the staff to do it.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, back I don't know how many months ago it was, but when the governor changed the rule, so it could be 100% capacity. I remember calling up one of my favorite restaurants and saying, "Oh, great news!" And they said, "Well, no, it didn't change anything because it's still 60. The table still had to be 6 feet apart, and everybody had to be 6 feet apart. So it didn't. We still have to essentially operate at 50% or whatever because you can't operate at 100 and have a table 6 feet apart." So then when I saw the most recent change, I called and said, "Oh, great news! This has got to be great." Well, no, actually, we can't really change. Yeah, we can have more tables, but we can't see people because we don't have the freaking staff. I mean, it is insane. And Gary's sitting here saying that he's got entry-level jobs for 65, 70.
Can't fill it.
That's entry level. That's a fantastic job.
It is.
Entry, pass entry. I mean, and you can't find people. That's terrible.
Yeah, and one of our viewers, David, has said, it's basically, they can't pass a drug test, these
That's
days.
true. That's also true too.
And it's
That's
like,
all-
it's like, what is the matter with society? It's like, we truly are like.
Do you have to pass the drug testing?
It depends on the job. I know for
Chris is like, are you hiring?
The reason I say that, Chris, is like for like my folks, like government contracting, they're required to pass a drug test. And it's funny, we have he's actually not, he's a system administrator. He's making like 72 and he's whining about making only 72 and he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, if I made 100, I could buy a house. You could buy a house at 72, son. Just stop your habits, your racing habits that he had.
Well, I always find it funny. Now I'm no longer the younger generation, and now I understand what all the older folks used to say. Those dang millennials, but now I'm saying these dang Gen Zs, man. Like, I mean, I literally had somebody that I interviewed today, and she said verbatim. She said, "Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of working hard. I believe in working smarter, not harder." And I'm like, okay, interview's done. Get out. I'm like, we're not doing this one. No, get out.
Gary,
This
wait
is
till you
an
have
industry to do.
the one where the mom comes on the interview and asks you all the grills you.
Yeah, no.
Or like, when do I get to be a
Dwight, that's really funny you said that, though, because that reminds me of an intern I had many, many years ago.
I know who you're talking about. Was it the guy?
No, it was actually the Korean girl, and her mom came with her and everything like that, and then asked me questions afterwards. And I guess maybe she was the only child in the family. I mean, this is also part of Asian culture, which I'm pretty familiar with, being married to a Korean, having a Japanese mother. But it's just this. It is so stereotypical. You just reminded me of something I hadn't thought about for probably 20 years or more about this and how strange I thought it was. Now that you think about, I mean, what you just put in there, Dwight, in the chat, that was a little bit different. I mean, I had a chat with that guy's dad, but he didn't come into the office. He didn't come into the office specifically for that. So. And
he was on the now. I think he used to be on the Central Could be out in Carroll County, not Carroll County. On
the Eastern Shore somewhere, or
Talbot. Yeah, Talbot. I think it was Talbot County, wherever Denise Lovelady is. It was that county.
Imagining the scene from Step Brothers right now, where Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly both show up to the interview wearing the old '70s tuxedo in front of each other.
I don't know though, Chris. If it's not, it needs to be a Star Trek reference, okay?
I love Dwight. I'm sorry.
Because Dwight have every Star Trek episode committed to memory.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is I haven't even watched every one of them either, too. Which is scarier. Just reading the synopsis, But I did watch an episode of The Jeffersons, and the synopsis did leave out a few things. It kind of filled the plot holes.
All right. One thing I did want to discuss, because I want to get everybody's kind of opinion on this, is whole really over the 1-6 Commission. The Democrats have been pushing for this. Kevin McCarthy pushed back on this, but they did manage to find 35 Republicans in the House, and they passed to go to the Senate now to see if they'll actually form this commission. But and it will be equally weighted, at least in numbers, right? Same number of Republicans and Democrats, but I do think that President Trump is right, and McCarthy and these people are right. Is that this thing is there's only one reason to set this thing up, and it's going to be a witch hunt. They have specific targets they're looking at. This is not anywhere close to the level of a 9/11 commission and anything like this. This is a very politicized thing that the Democrats are going to do. Though I did see somebody suggested that if the Republicans wanted to kind of derail that, then you put the Marjorie Taylor Greene types on the commission, and that'll just throw it right off the rails.
Yeah, that's like a piece of dynamite into
Yeah.
it.
Put Matt Gaetz on there. That'd be fun times.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you think? Do you think the Senate's going to do anything with this? What do you think about this commission?
I think it's going to die in the Senate.
I don't.
I think
what we need to
move on. Okay, you don't see us harping about all the horrible things Barack Obama did. Still, I mean, come on, it's time to move on. You guys, these are the most bitter, whiny winners I've ever met. They won the election they stole it, but I mean, they won the election. Their guy's the president. They control both houses. You think they'd be a little happier right now, Gary? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
they should be a little happier. But they're just a bunch of miserable individuals.
They are. I mean, they're miserable individuals. Many of them are just not healthy upstairs in their head. And I think
that's just the president.
I mean, I remember the term was coined not too terribly long ago. What was it? Trump derangement syndrome. And I mean, it's very accurate. I mean, it's a very, very accurate term. I mean, it probably literally will turn up in the DSM-5 here eventually, because at the end of the day, it's true. But I think that it's not something that's going to die, and I think it's petrifying. And really, the only way I feel that it would die is folks like us who are, Republican conservative activists reach out to our elected officials and say, no, this is ridiculous. Because here's the problem. It's just like, the whole witch hunts during the first, 4 years of the first Trump administration, because there will probably be another Trump administration secret. But, during the first 4 years, these guys try to cast a blanket towards everybody. So where does it stop? So does this 1/6 commission, does it actually start, going door to door to every Republican activist that even had a slight marginal connection to the president? If that's the case, well shit, I might be called up. I mean, like, at the end of the day, where does it stop? I mean, I remember the FBI called me. I think, Chris, the FBI probably called you during and after that debacle. The FBI was poking around to almost every Republican leader here in the state of Maryland, asking, do you know this person? Do you know that person? So that's scary. That's a scary thing that I've never seen in politics in the 12 years I've been involved. So 1/6 commission, it's a disaster. It's horrible. And it should be something that honestly should keep Republican activists and conservative leaders around the country up at night.
See, this is intimidation, Gary.
Gary,
they're using the power of government to intimidate Republicans. Don't you dare say anything bad about dear leader, otherwise we'll come and get you in the middle of the night. I mean, we saw it with Bill Clinton and Janet Reed. Remember that illegal alien from Cuba that came over here looking for asylum? At gunpoint, they sent him back. Remember that?
Was his name?
Yeah. Elio Gonzalez, yes.
Elian
I remember that.
But yeah, I mean, so I'm so confused because they impeached the president twice. They have arrested people. They have brought charges to hundreds of people. It's not like people, did what they did at the Capitol and walked away. I mean, people are being held accountable, and yet, they have brought in the chief of police, and they brought in the Secretary of Defense. I mean, they've brought all these people in. They've investigated the situation. Why is there a need for this commission? What is the purpose? They've beaten this to death already. I mean, I'm at the point where if the Democrats, if they want to fight the last war, have at it. Because I mean, when anybody wants to talk to me about and have some long drawn out argument about Donald Trump, I'm past that. I'm on to the next battle. I'm on to 2022 and all the races out there. So if the Democrats want to keep trying to punish the Trump presidency and anybody who supported him, let them have that battle and they can fight the last war. I'm moving on to the next onto the next election, because that's what they're doing. You're right. They won, and yet they are still beating this absolutely to death.
They're
it'd be like this,
crybabies. They're crybabies. Let's face it. And the thing is, though, I will say, is they will beat it to death. But what's also alarming is you have people like AOC who created, what is this, like the hit list or whatever? You guys remember that?
Mhm.
She created the watch list.
Oh, remember when
And
Sarah
I'm like, what are
Palin
we? Are we
had
terrorists because we
targeted
support the
districts?
president?
Remember when she had targeted districts and she was blamed for Gabby Gifford's shooting, while AOC has a hit list. What happens when a Republican is shot by? Oh, wait, that happened.
Oh, that
and
happened.
everybody was silent.
Yeah.
And everybody was silent. Nobody said one word, except they threw out the whole gun control nonsense.
Yeah, and I like what Chris said here about this too, because I mean, I kind of felt this way, even though in general, in fact, the idea that Trump had to go through a couple of impeachments was ridiculous. But if that's how the Democrats want to expend their energy, that's what Nancy Pelosi thought, and all those Democrats thought was going to be to their benefit. I thought this was a perfect thing for Republicans, on an election basis, because you can point to this about how much time they wasted and all the nonsense, by doing so. And I think, with the 2022 elections coming up, we already have a redistricting that's probably going to favor the Republicans. I mean, I could see this as a total, miscalculation by the Democrats in trying to take this issue, make it political, thinking that they're going to be able to somehow score some political points. But heading into a election that's going to be tough for them, I think this is a huge mistake. So I'm saying, go ahead and go for it. Yeah. I hate it. Go ahead and go for it, because if you want to get a Republican majority right now, this is going to help.
And here's the thing: you've got even in Maryland, you got Democrats that think that all the Democrats they go, Peter Franchot, he's much too conservative for us. We'd rather see Ben Jealous want to get on. Yes, bring on Ben Jealous.
Please, I encourage it. I pray.
Or even give us Tom Perez. We can knock the stuffings out of him again too. You guys know the story about Tom Perez, when he really wanted to be AG, but he had a small problem. He was not a practicing attorney. He had no time in the courtroom in Maryland, so he was disqualified. And we could thank the great late Dick Hugg for uncovering that one, because he probably would have beaten Gansler in the primary, just because he's very woke, and Gansler was viewed as a right-wing zealot among Democrat circles. Just funny. Speed racer Doug Gansler, who likes to go.
Or the Ocean City partier.
No, that was Rehoboth.
What was that?
Was Perez was he licensed somewhere else, or was he not a lawyer anywhere?
No, I think one of those clauses are if you want to be AG, you've actually had to go into the courtroom. He was a Maryland barred attorney.
Oh, okay.
You have to be you have to go into the courtrooms and something. He never did that.
He was
always fun. Yeah. And
he had no real courtroom experience, was the thing.
Yeah. And Speed Racer, who likes to zip up and down Route 50, by the way, I don't totally blame him, because you can go easily 75, 80, 90 miles an hour on 50, and they don't bother you, But that's,
for Maryland, the Ben Jealous, the further to the left that the Democrats can nominate somebody will be, an asset to the Maryland Republican Party, because we don't have an incumbent going at this point in time. So we definitely need to have someone like that. The Ben Jealous, that would be great, because then I think that gives us a shot at retaining it. But, if they move more towards the center, it'll become a much tougher fight.
Yeah. And I don't see them doing that, because look who they have as Speaker of the House, President of the Senate. I mean, you never thought we would ever say, we wish Mike Miller and Mike Bush were back. I mean, really, these two. I mean, this woman, the Speaker, wants to create a third minority majority district. It's like you're gonna have to get pretty creative with the fingerprint paints there to do that, creating that third district. And you've got the leader in the Senate. He's just as bad, and they're both very woke individuals. You don't have the days of I believe his name was Senator Arnick. He was a Democrat from Baltimore County who was actually, again, a more conservative Democrat, as not as liberal or not as progressive Democrat, But as I like to say, Maryland did not go off the rails until Paris Glendenning's ascension to when he stole the election from Ellen Sauerbrey in '94. That's when Maryland went totally hard left. That's when they made that hard left turn. Because before that, I mean, in Annapolis, Democrats, Republicans, they got along. Now it's becoming a lot like Washington, where the Democrats are, getting very intolerant. I mean, I've gone to Annapolis and I've seen Democrat state senators having lunch with Republican state senators, and neither one is trying to poison the other one. Civility is, I think, going to be. I'm willing to bet we'll see in the next 4 years, Annapolis will become just as toxic as Capitol Hill.
I think in some respects it already is.
Yeah, and I think under when we had O'Malley, I mean, I think a lot of O'Malley, he just looked over to California and saw what they were doing. He says, "I like that idea. Let's get that one through too," because it seemed like there was a lot of mirror image things going on there. It's like, oh, California passed this law, let's do that here in Maryland, and they controlled everything, so that was kind of a no-brainer for them to do so. But it continued that left turn, and I think you're right, Dwight. I mean, I don't know that I had a whole lot of objections, politically with the Democrats, with the Harry Hughes or the William Donald Schaeffers as much, but Glendenning and O'Malley, I mean, you could just say, oh, this just got really, really bad, really, really fast.
I remember Glendenning raised the gas tax because the price of gas fell below, like he said, since the price of gas fell like 70 cents, he goes, we can add it because Marylanders are used to paying 80 to 85 cents a gallon for gas, so we can just jack up 10 cents and nobody will really notice, And that is, the perfect expression, Gary.
What would we do?
Oh, actually, my taxpayer group, we started calling members. We defeated Glendenning's tax increase. ATR, Association of Concerned Taxpayers, NTU, made a lot of phone calls into Annapolis, and Glendenning retreated. But
so I want to ask you guys, just kind of on this 1/6 thing. I mean, one of the people who voted for it obviously was Liz Cheney. I mean, she's become a darling of the media. I mean, what's her future in the party? Does she win re-election in 2022? Do her voters even stick with her at this
here's
point?
The thing. Liz Cheney needs to wake up and just go back a few years and listen to what MSLSD said about her dad. Just look what they said about her last spring, not, just a year ago, what they said about Liz Cheney. They called her dad Darth Vader. They called her dad a Nazi. They called him a fascist. They go, look at him. He tried to kill his friend when he went hunting, but I'd rather go hunting with Dick Cheney than in a car with Ted Kennedy. I'm sorry. But I mean, this is my big
There it is, right there, Dwight.
Oh, you got that there?
Bumper sticker's there.
Okay, this is what I view. Okay, we're Republicans, and there's no secret. We don't belong to any organized party. That's why we're Republicans. We all have our own views. We disagree. That's fine. But, don't do it on the front page of the Washington Post or go to the MSLSD and start whining because, they hate you. It's kind of like John McCain. Remember John McCain? He was so stupid he didn't know how many cars he owned or houses he owned or something like that. Sarah Palin, they made fun of her. George W. Bush was a war criminal. He should be arrested and tried at The Hague. Dick Cheney should be, and they made that movie Syriana about how it was basically supposed to be Dick Cheney and Halliburton. If you watched the movie that the global whining movie Day After Tomorrow, the president dies as he's trying to leave the White House before the cold snap comes in, and the vice president looks a lot like Dick Cheney. And these folks in the media, this is what Republicans need to remember. These guys are not your friends. It's like John McCain was a maverick, and he'd go out there and he'd do his little gang of whatever with Lindsey Graham and other squishy Republicans. to get to block real immigration reform, border security, and so on. You had John McCain that rammed campaign finance reform down our throats because he couldn't follow the rules himself. He broke the law with the Keating Five, and he said, "Well, if there was a law," and that's why he became the champion for Canada. That was his penance from him being a lawbreaker.
Hey,
I know a lot of people
squishy Republicans are all those people that decide they want to have the new Republican Party if Trump stays around, right?
Yeah, where are you going to go? Where the hell you guys go? Enjoy losing. Go with the libertarians. Go join the Libertarian Party at that point. These people. I cannot stand these people who want to break off and start their own party. I feel the same way about the people that wanted to start off break off the Republican Party and start the Constitution Party or the Patriot Party. I forget whichever one they were talking about. That's idiocy, you morons. You'll never win.
I love when Donald Trump, one of his first speeches that he did, right? It was a big speech after everything, I think it was December or so, and everybody's running around. Oh, we're going to start the Patriot Party. Oh, that's what the president was. Oh. And then what did he say? He said, "There's one party that will ensure that we make America great again and we maintain the America First agenda." And that's the Republican Party.
And President Reagan addressed it.
To bring anything up. I'm not going to support that. And he flat out said that. And the Republican Party is the party of freedom, and we will continue to be that way.
And President Reagan said it best after the '64 loss with Goldwater, saying, no pale pastels, no a strong first party, not a second party. Because there were people back then, loonies, the John Birchers who wanted to start a third party, And no, we are Republicans, and we're not Republicans because of our skin pigmentation, ethnicity, or whatever. We believe in national security, family values, and tax cuts. That is the Republican Party. It drives me nuts every time I hear a Republican want to start this. Oh, we should do outreach there. No, how about we just sell our ideas better? How about you package our ideas better and explain free market economics? Don't try to I remember Gary, I don't know if you're old enough to remember Millennial Maryland after the 2012 election loss of Mitt Romney.
Yes.
At the Ocean City convention, they had these little flyers. When we talk about family values, we lose the election. I go, yeah, except 1968, 1972, 1980.
I look at somebody like Giovanni Patterson, right? And I love Giovanni Patterson, who's our candidate for city council president against the household name of potential, in my opinion, because I don't need cease and desist letters, potential criminal misconduct, potential, in my opinion, all right, of the Mosby family. But basically, at the end of the day, look at him, and the guy ran with $10,000 in the bank with absolutely no name recognition, ran as one of the hardest right Republican candidates in the state of Maryland, period. And guess what? He broke records. The guy got 38% vote against Nick Mosby.
But Mosby's going to be deported from Florida.
What was that?
I sent Governor DeSantis a letter asking if he could deport Mosby from the state of Florida. Just drop her off the Georgia line.
Hey, let's be clear.
She's there without her papers.
In your opinion, we don't need cease and desist letters to the Dr. Politics show. Okay.
Don't pull us into your mess, Gary.
she's a public official. If she can't take the heat, just resign and become a private citizen.
She wants to sue Sinclair Media or some mess, spending taxpayer dollars.
Have her go talk to General Westmoreland and how his lawsuit with 60 Minutes worked out. And General Westmoreland was right. General Westmoreland was correct.
You're mentioning these other parties. So I mean, Howie Phillips, out of the Conservative Caucus, he's a great guy. I mean, but he became kind of the leader for the Constitution Party. Howie was a friend of mine. He was a friend of my father's. And a very well respected conservative. But this is where I think sometimes these good people, they have good intentions, but they do the wrong thing there. I was like, that wasn't helpful, to go and do that, because they start siphoning off people, and then all of a sudden we've just got a whole bunch of other people doing, here's party 1, party 2, party 3. That's not what we need.
Yeah, we don't need to become Europe, with a million parties and have to form coalitions to govern.
Yeah, and I don't think, and I think this is something that you have to be involved in the party, and I think all four of us can speak to this. That I think, and this can be for, like Gary said at one point when Donald Trump was talking about maybe starting some kind of spinoff party, or Republicans who are upset with Trump talking about doing a spinoff party. I don't think any of these people realize how much this, and I know this won't be, independents will like this, but I'm not independent and I don't really care. But I don't think they understand how the entire system is so built around two parties, and how the parties are so organized. And I know the Republican Party in Maryland isn't, we don't have the staff as the Democrat Party, but it's not, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about from the national, from up on the national standpoint down to the central committees. It would be close to impossible at this point for an actual organized, competitive third party. Yeah, can a third party candidate run for president? Yeah, sure. But to actually start a third party where you have candidates across the board at all levels and actually have an organized, let's be real. A lot of all of you guys were around before Donald Trump was around. And I remember when he brought a lot of new people to the party. And they ended up being great volunteers. But originally, a lot of these guys who were just in love with the president before the president really kind of got embraced by the party. They were running around like with chickens with their heads cut off. They wouldn't be able to organize a precinct coverage if it was their lives depend on it. At the end of the day, the party thankfully did embrace the president, and the president did get on board, and he won he was the nominee. But people who act like we can go off and start some new party, I don't think they understand what goes into that, and how the system is just it's been rigged to operate up for two parties, and it's just the truth.
I have no problem. I have no problems with a two-party system, because I look at governments, like you look at countries like Italy, where if it's Tuesday the government's falling. Greece, another example where the government falls fairly regularly. It's not a horrible thing. Yeah, it falls, they form a new government, but it does take away resources, And then you have, remember when the Weimar Republic fell, that one didn't work out too well. When you had a party that got 2% of the vote took over and unleashed hell on earth for many years. But go ahead.
Two things. One of your viewers, Mr. Bond there, who I know, David's a great guy. He said Giovanni's a great guy, and I agree. And actually, it's Giovanni's birthday. So, Mr. Patterson, wherever you are watching in the world, sitting on a beach somewhere, happy birthday to you. And thank you.
Yes, happy birthday to you, Giovanni.
The second thing is, I find it so funny, the same clowns, I'm going to say it, they are absolute clowns, who are rejected by the Democrats, or even, frankly, the Republicans as well. They're the ones who are going out saying, oh, I'm going to start a party, I'm going to show those guys, And it's just like, it's the rejects. It's like, look, just shut up, get in line, and let's go ahead and win an election, because guess what? Our candidate's going to be 1,000 times better than that crazy progressive guy. So, that's why I don't understand the Libertarian Party, frankly, or the Constitution Party, or any of these other individuals that are floating around. So, look, we got to win elections. I'm about it to win. I think everybody here on this show is a winner, right? So, that's my two cents.
To Chris's point, though, I want to say something here. This is kind of interesting to me, because I hadn't really thought about it until you talked about this in terms of how difficult it is to have beyond the Republican and Democrat Party. But just say, for example, say a Libertarian candidate had wins a presidency, or a Green Party candidate wins a presidency. Exactly how do they don't have a party structure, right? You get the president and the vice president being Greens or Libertarians or whatever, but you have nobody in Congress, in essence, probably, right? Or the Senate.
That would unify Democrats and Republicans.
right. It's like, what the heck is going to go? That sounds like chaos to me.
Yeah, and unlike, I remember when Ross Perot ran for president in '92, and there were people saying, well, if Ross wins, Here is Ross Perot. If he becomes president, how will he govern? Because Ross Perot was independent. He decided that he wanted Bill Clinton to win the '92 election, so that's why he got into the race for president. If you ever listen to any of the debates, he's like, "Oh yeah, Bill, that's awesome. I like that idea." And he's like trashing, President George H.W. Bush. I mean, who did raise taxes on us, and but he would have been better than Bill Clinton for 4 years, And it's the good, the good fight. But Ross Perot would have gotten nothing done. He'd probably been a one-term president if he had won. But let's face it, you're not going to get a third-party president. I know, like, everybody was excited when Jesse Ventura became the governor of Minnesota, an independent, beat out the Democrat and the Republican. Everyone was like, "Oh, ooh, Jesse Ventura for president, he can win." And I'm like, no, he's not going to win, bro. It's not going to happen. And how was Jesse's term as governor of Minnesota? How did it work out for him?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of governors in Minnesota that haven't been too great anyway. So.
No, but he did usher in Tim Pawlenty, who
all
was,
right. I want, as we roll towards the last part of the show, I did want to mention that Dr. Fauci here became the Webby Awards Person of the Year. I really don't know a heck of a lot. About the Webby Awards. I mean,
Webby Awards.
There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there, but the idea that Dr. Fauci gets a person of, he's the Person of the Year is like, oh, spare me, please.
Let me tell you, the Webby Awards are rigged. They pick the ugliest design. Say, oh, this is the winner. Then you give them something that's really a good, innovative, cutting edge design or development project of a site. And they'll go, oh no, that sucks. They decided not to give NASA a Webby, but they gave, like, I forget which agency they gave some stupid agency an award. NASA had their Landsat project was a great site, had a lot of back end stuff, and Webby is made up of a bunch of hippie liberals who basically decided to create awards for websites, and they've kind of expanded from just web to now Person of the Year and all this nonsense stuff. We've got this fall coming the Red Web Awards. Those are going to be real awards, real legitimate awards. We'll do this probably in November, December show for Dr. Politics. We'll be handing out awards and taking nominations for awards, not just the best, but also the worst. So if you guys have a crappy website or a social media presence, we'll get you.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the most and least valuable conservative by what was it, Red Maryland?
Red Maryland, yeah.
I genuinely campaigned every single year to be the least valuable conservative. Lost every single time. So Brian Griffith, if you're listening, you're doing.
He was on our show last week.
Oh, all right, look at that. I missed him, unfortunately. Listen, I bring back the awards. I desperately want to be listed as the least valuable conservative in Maryland.
Yeah,
so,
you knew you were doing something right when somebody submitted your name. I heard that the Webby Press Association that their membership they only have 55.6% of their members are women, and then another 42.8% is minority. So I heard that there's an uproar to ban them from appearing on the web. Has anyone heard these rumors? And does anybody know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about the Hollywood Foreign Press with the Golden Globes. I don't know if anyone's heard of that.
Oh, that whole thing, yeah. That was...
They've been literally canceled. Pulled all. NBC has already told them they will not air them next year because there's such an uproar by Hollywood that there's too many white men in the Hollywood Foreign Press, and they've desperately tried to add more minorities and women, but it's not enough. So NBC has canceled them. So how ironic and wonderful that the Hollywood Foreign Press, which I'm sure is full of nothing but liberals, was themselves canceled. So, anyways, that was my joke about the Webby Press Association saying. But sorry, it was too much to explain.
Basically,
We should have had some show prep for that one.
Okay, so the Webby.
This is what happens. We're pretty unscripted, right? We don't have a pre-show meeting where we're saying this is how we're going to do this.
Am I the only Republican who reads variety or something?
Yeah, right.
Chris, we're right on about the Webby folks over there. They would not know what's good if it hit them in their faces, frankly. They are just go look at their site. The site looks like crap. It's not 100% 508 compliant, and they whine about that, but it's not 508, and it's just bad. The Montgomery County Republican has a better site than they do.
They got a lot of press because they've gone into this thing. You give an award to Oprah and whatever, but you also do something to Fauci, who has definitely been out there in the press. But what is Dr. Fauci's credibility after all this zigzagging on the masks? Dr.
Fauci, have you seen that meme going around? Have you talked where you got folks in a mask knocking the door, like Jehovah's Witnesses? They're like, have you? Do you know about our Lord and Savior, Dr. Fauci? But it is funny how this guy's he's even got an action figure. A Dr. Fauci action figure. And, he's a civil servant. First of all, why is this not Hatch Act? I mean, some of the stuff he said, I think it could be interpreted as being taking sides and being, violation of the Hatch Act, if he was a Republican saying great things about President Trump, the Democrats would have used the Hatch Act on him at that point. They would have.
But Fauci and Walensky, they don't seem to get their message straight. We have, talk about masks and the need for that, and then within a few days things get reversed, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, yeah, you don't really have to wear a mask, if you've been fully vaccinated indoors or outdoors and stuff like that. And the media loved Fauci before. I don't think they love him as much now because they want, the media has been giving us for 14, 15 months, whatever, we need to be afraid of COVID and, and we'll be wearing masks basically for the rest of our lives. And they do this. Yeah. So,
I need a award now.
Yeah.
Come out to Carroll County. We got rid of them a long time ago.
I enjoyed. Dwight and I were having we've had a little conversation with some others about where we can in Montgomery County lifted a lot of the restrictions this past week. So I've been testing that out. I've gone to Walmart and to Costco and no problem, except that I find that I'm like the only person in Walmart and Costco not wearing a mask. And I'm like, what's wrong with you people?
I know, it's like, but it's fun. I told you my story yesterday. We had lunch with Delegate Parrott out in Montgomery County, and they have a sign there saying you got to put a mask, have a mask to come in. So we take it off when we get to the table. Neil comes in, no mask, and nobody says boo to him. So when we walked out, we didn't even put our masks back on when we walked out. I highly recommend Gentleman Jim's. It's got good pizza, not as good as Stained Glass Pub, but it's got good pizza.
The free ad promo here.
Yeah.
Right.
Support your local business.
Up here in because I live about a minute from the Mason-Dixon line, and a lot of these backwoods Pennsylvania bars have been absolutely hilarious for months. Even when the restrictions were extremely tight under Governor Wolf's reign of terror up there. A lot of these bars that were in the backwoods, they just completely, started operating, lawlessly. They not only were they staying open when they weren't even supposed to be open, they were staying open later than what their normal shutdown time was when pre-pandemic. Still, I just went up to I won't give the name of the place in case Governor Wolf's listening, but they have a sign right on the door that says if you feel uncomfortable if you feel uncomfortable being around people who don't wear masks, don't come in. It's the complete opposite of what you see pretty much everywhere else. So it's Carroll County is actually tame next to southern backwoods Pennsylvania.
Let's snap it up for southern backwoods.
I think you're not too far from Chambersburg. Are you like near the Chambersburg, York area?
Hey, Dwight, we've never hit the top of the hour, Dwight.
So. Oh, yes. Final thoughts, everyone. Time for final thoughts. Let's see. And you can have more than one final thoughts. That's why it's final thoughts, not final thought. So as many thoughts as you'd like to have. Let's talk with Dr. Collins.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, first and foremost, thank you again. Always a pleasure. I enjoy this routine. You guys do a great job. And one thing that I do want to say is what I think that we should start doing is we should start holding mass burnings in the public square and see what happens with liberals. I would love to see their heads absolutely explode with a bunch of folks in a circle throwing their mask into this burning flame. I would love to see it happen.
Actually, we should do that. Should be a fun. We could do that. I mean, I bet we could do it in Carroll County. I bet somewhere, right?
We'll do it, but can we find a way to monetize it? Can I find a way to make a fundraiser out of this?
Yeah, you gotta pay $10 to throw your mask in the fire. Otherwise Woodsy the Owl will swoop down and.
And then you can do like the tier levels. So you can, for $50, you can get your picture taken next to the gigantic mass fire. It'd be fantastic. It'd be great. I think we should do it. So let's copyright that, gentlemen, and let's make some cash.
Do we have? Do you guys have cicadas out there in Baltimore City yet?
No. We do have gunshots though, and random bullets flying around.
Cicadas are afraid of Baltimore City. They're too afraid to go to Baltimore City.
Yeah, but gunshots. Gunshots happen every 17 minutes there, not every 17 years.
That is true.
That's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Isn't it more like 17 seconds?
I mean, I don't know. Anything goes. But, I do think that the other real quick thought that I do have is I do think that Republicans should not just allow this, 1/6 commission to be something that just pops up and then we have this witch hunt on every average Joe around the country. I think it's a major, major issue. And at the end of the day, it's something that we need to watch like hawks. This could be the Red Scare of our time, but really the Red Scare is just so alarming in this instance.
Well, Gary, you know what they're turning into? They're turning into Joe McCarthy.
Oh, for sure.
This is McCarthyism. This is Pelosi.
It's true. It's true. So thank you. Those are my final thoughts. Let's burn some masks and let's fight back.
There you go. Chris, final thoughts.
Final thoughts are I just wanted to thank the Maryland Republican Party and all the folks from around the state who's dedicated their time to come out and whether it was phone banking or knocking doors or whatnot to help out with the Westminster race, which I am very disappointed and still, but it was a good effort. Unfortunately, Westminster, the demographics are changing, and the Republicans are. I think we used the word squishy earlier. Squishy would be a far too kind word to use for some of our Republicans in Westminster, elected Republicans. We have very good Republican, voters. I'm talking about elected ones. But anyhow, I wanted to say thanks. I mean, I was really impressed and just it was great to see so many people come out to try to change something in our little small city here in Carroll County. So.
And you're the person that won, the mayor-elect, I should say, was very irate about your efforts of rallying the Republican troops.
Oh yes, I mean there was no. I mean yes,
how dare you help the Republicans?
Reprehensible. Yes, she said. How dare? I mean Brian Griffith's column, his duckpin article was fantastic about his commentary on the whole thing. But yeah, that was worth. Even though we did not win, that was worth it to see the collective group of heads just explode in Westminster over how dare the Republican Party get involved and make this a partisan election. Damn those Republicans.
By the way, the over out in Wawa's the one out in Westminster by what is it, 108 and something or another?
140.
Yeah. They lifted their mask mandate. You can go to Wawa's without a mask now, too.
Woo!
Good coffee there. Better than Starbucks. Final thoughts, Don Irvine.
Yeah, one of them is that you just mentioned it was cicadas. So I've been trying to figure out. At first, everybody that I knew, what seemed on Facebook at least, was talking about the cicadas, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I've seen any. So it didn't occur to me until the other day that what I really need to do is that we have a tree line in the back of our house that's protected by the county, and so those trees have been there for a long time. And this neighborhood I live in is about 20 years old. And yeah, there were a few there, but not a heck of a lot. But when I was out today, I'm like, I could hear this noise all throughout the area because I've got lots of woodland. We're kind of part of an agriculture preserve up here in Montgomery County, and I'm like, so that's what they sound like. Now it looks like I guess we're in peak cicada and everything. But I'm kind of glad that even on the old trees, the new trees in the front of the house that the developer put up, like you can't trees. That it kind of makes sense there and all that, but I don't have any little kids to actually marvel at that or say that they're yucky or whatever. But then the other thing was the thing that Dwight, you and I were beforehand and was on the list was just this California that just passed a law that said that by 2030 they want all the ride hailing, the Ubers, the Lyfts, and anybody else that's competing for ride hailing, they want those drivers to be driving EVs by 2030. Though they weren't specific enough to figure out who was paying for the EVs. They realized that the drivers may not be able to afford it, so they're thinking about maybe it ought to be on Uber and Lyft to do it for them, which is crazy. But this is another this crazy environmental leftist policies of California is to do this, and I think we may have talked about this on the show more than one time. That EVs, Dwight's going to buy. He wants to buy a Hummer, and that's all well and fine. But it's like, how much?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into
how much electricity are we going to need? We don't have the charging stations yet, but but Biden and all these guys, it's like we got to go to the EVs, but our infrastructure isn't quite ready for that. So. Just crazy leftism.
Hey, Don, by the way, I got a picture of cicadas for you. Cicada. This is, you're talking about the insects, not the flash film, I guess. Wrong cicada. I had to use that. It's like I've been using that cicada joke a lot recently because he is a flash villain.
I think that's why you like this restream so much, is that you can bring in all this stuff.
I do like that. Final thoughts for me is one: the Maryland Republican Party convention is happening June 11th and 12th. Come on out Friday night and hang out with Governor Bob Ehrlich at the reception. We're having his 5th book is out, and you can pre-order it right now on Amazon. I've pre-ordered my copy. I will get it. And it looks like it's a very exciting book. It's about the Trump presidency, and it's basically really awesome. It's a great bookend to his previous book. Bet you didn't see that coming. Highly recommend everyone come on down and subscribe to Governor Ehrlich's podcast. Him and the former First Lady, Kendall Ehrlich, have a podcast called The Bottom Line on Spotify. Subscribe. And give them a 5-star rating because a lot of the Christina Aguilera fans, I believe it was, are going in and giving thumbs down and trying to
Britney Spears
basically cancel the what's that? Britney Spears. Okay, there you go.
Get your late 90s pop stars.
That's really really get it right, Dwight.
I can't keep these pop stars straight. There's so many of them. You got and so go and the Britney Spears put an end to the Britney Spears army that's out to get our former First Lady, and subscribe to Governor Ehrlich's podcast. And also for Republican Central communities out there that are watching, you can't register the day of the convention, so register today because it makes everyone's lives easier if you're already registered and you just have to pick up your passes. Poor Jerry DeWolf and all the people that do credentialing, they should get a special award. For that do the credentialing stuff, and you get these people that come in at the last. And then you get those who swear up and down that did it online, and why is it not here? Blah blah blah. They're gonna, chill out, And I'm actually kind of glad that we're closing everything down 3 days before, because something. If you can get your act together, you've known about this for over a month now, And if you can get your act together by that, well, maybe you can't come. Just give somebody your proxy, But it could be Maryland Live. I wish it were Ocean City, but it's at Maryland Live, which is kind of like Ocean City, but not really. You got airports, you can see the planes take off and land. You got gambling and stuff like that. But great, it'll be a great time, Maryland Live. It is a great venue for a convention with the jumbotrons. It is. I mean, you guys were all there last time. It was really spectacular. The way the screen. I mean, we look like we. I mean, do you guys remember back when we used to have our banners held up by duct tape, and then halfway through the convention it'd fall down? We've come a long way from those days.
Those are the good old days, man. What are you talking about?
I know back then but we had karaoke. We could do karaoke in Ocean City. That's one of the reasons I do like Ocean City, because a lot of these hotels. Well, we can't even do suites, unfortunately, because of.
Bring back the hospitality suites. That's what. If we do, the Republican Party and Marylanders do not have true freedom until we have hospitality suites back.
I know, exactly. I gotta be. I always throw some of the best hospitality. It's like I've got some of the best giveaways. By the way, if anybody is interested, I'm down to my last box of Hogan pint glasses, and I got 3 boxes left of Trump Pence champagne flutes. Guess which ones I'm going to run out of first? But I've had the Hogan pint glasses since like 2015. And the Trump Pence glasses come in a box of not 24, but box of 12. So, but I mean, you all got those at the Frederick Convention back in 2016, I believe. We had a whole mess of them we were giving out then. And we've got that. With that said, I think that's all there is to say. Oh, tomorrow, come on! If you're not doing anything, there is the College Republicans are having their convention in Annapolis. Stop on by, and you don't have to wear a mask there. Yeah. And with that, I'll be there. I believe, Chris, you're going to be there too, right, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll go there to take pictures. And also, if anybody's listening, if anybody has a great story about how President Reagan inspired them, reach out to me, dwight@dwightpatel.com. I'd love to record it for a video project we're working on for Reagan's 40 years since he's been inaugurated president. And with that said, any closing thoughts, anybody? And and thank you, everyone. We'll see everyone next week. Take care.